Hello, hello, hello. My name is L. David Harris, and I am a recovering techaholic. I know, I know, I know. Some of you are just like me, but one of the things that I embrace is that I have used it effectively and efficiently in business and in ministry. I don't collect trinkets and toys of technology that don't lead anywhere. So I use it responsibly, but my mind is always thinking, like, what is the next best tool to use? And in the age of artificial intelligence, that is no different for me. However, one of the things that God has blessed me with, and sometimes it's painful to have this blessing, is forethought and wisdom. And so I started with AI in about 2017. I know what I just said. About 2000, I think it's 17 or 18, around that time. A lot of people weren't using those terms to identify what this new thing was that the normal people like me, the public, were using. But that, in fact, was what it was. And I have become so proficient at using it and become even a trainer in using various AI tools. And I have used it to feed my family. I promise you I have. And so I have nothing negative to say, but there's that conjunction, right? As I said, God gives me wisdom ahead of time. And so last year I finished a book titled Collective Stupidity: The Battle for Authentic Identity, when the artificially intelligent think for us. But I did not, oh, let me fix the sound. I did not publish it yet because I'm not going to lie. Like, sometimes I don't like being ahead of the curve because sometimes it brings unnecessary argument my way. And I'm just like, I literally do not have the time. But now that I really don't care what people think, when I know God is leading me in a direction, it's going to be like fire shut up in my bones if I try to hold it. So I'm about to drop this in a few days. It's now April 3. Okay. And so what I want to do, rather than making the case, what I want to do is go ahead and read a chapter right now live. And I might as well record it at the same time so that you can get the point. This is going to be life-changing, I promise you. So let me go ahead and click share screen. I think you're seeing all of my stuff. So let me pull this over here. I'll pull this over here so you can't see that. And I'm going to move this from here so I can't see this. And then I'm going to go ahead and get started here with chapter 10. Let me go back and record. You'll get it in a moment. I promise you it's going to make sense in a second here. Go get okay. Did I sound like AI when I did that? Chapter 10, Reclaiming Our Identity. The wood shavings curl like tiny question marks around Joseph's feet as he guides his grandson's hands on the knife. "Not so fast," he says quietly, adjusting Daniel's grip. "Let the blade feel the grain." The boy's tongue pokes out in concentration as he tries to match his grandfather's patient rhythm. The half-formed figure in his hands is far from perfect, certainly nothing like the 3D printed toys that fill his room. But his eyes shine with pride at each successful stroke. In this simple scene lies the heart of human identity, the transmission of knowledge through touch and presence, the beauty of imperfect creation, the connection that flows through generations. No AI system, no matter how sophisticated, can replicate this moment of shared discovery and growth. As we've explored throughout this book, artificial intelligence promises many things: perfect efficiency, flawless execution, unlimited productivity. And yet, in pursuing these promises, we risk surrendering something far more precious: our identity as beings created in God's image, designed for authentic creativity and genuine connection. The psalmist declares that we are fearfully and wonderfully made, not efficiently and flawlessly made. This divine design includes our limitations, our quirks, our need for growth and connection. Like the wood grain that guides Joseph's knife, these apparent constraints often reveal the path to genuine creation and meaningful relationship. Every curl of wood falling from Daniel's knife represents a choice, not just about how to shape the wood, but about how to shape ourselves and our future. Each stroke asks, will we embrace the messy, beautiful reality of human creativity or surrender it for digital perfection? Will we accept the divine design of our limitations or seek algorithmic transcendence? Consider how God chose to reveal himself through human writers, each with their distinct voice and perspective. He didn't optimize his message for maximum efficiency or standardize it for universal accessibility. Instead, he worked through the particular personalities and cultures and even limitations of human authors. Isaiah's royal poetry differs from Amos's shepherd's bluntness. John's mystical imagery contrasts with Luke's careful historical narrative. These differences don't diminish the message, they enrich it. Similarly, our human particularity, our unique blend of abilities and limitations serves divine purpose. When we surrender this uniqueness to AI optimization, we don't embrace our identity, we diminish it. Can I just say that again? When we surrender this uniqueness to AI optimization, we don't enhance our identity, we diminish it. Like Esau trading his birthright for a bowl of stew, we risk exchanging our divine design for digital convenience. The grandfather's careful instruction reveals another crucial truth. Human identity forms through relationship and resistance. Each correction of Daniel's grip, each moment of frustrated effort followed by breakthrough, shapes not just the wood, but the boy himself. AI can provide instant information, but it cannot offer the transformative power of human relationship. This touches on a profound spiritual truth. God often works through process rather than immediate result. The Israelites spent 40 years in the wilderness not because God couldn't get them to the promised land faster, but because the journey itself served his purposes. David spent years as a shepherd and fugitive before becoming king. Jesus himself spent 30 years in preparation for 3.5 years of ministry. Yet AI, with its promise of instant results and perfect execution, tempts us to bypass these formative struggles. Why spend years learning an instrument when AI can generate music instantly? Why struggle with artistic technique when AI can create images effortlessly? Why wrestle with writing when AI can generate content flawlessly? The answer lies in understanding that these struggles don't just produce results, they shape identity. A musician shaped by years of practice approaches creativity differently than someone who merely prompts an AI. An artist who has wrestled with technique sees the world differently than someone who generates images with algorithms. A writer who has found their voice through struggle communicates differently than someone relying on AI-generated content. Joseph could have given his grandson a perfectly crafted wooden figure, sparing him the cuts, frustrations, and imperfect results of learning to carve. But that would have denied Daniel something essential: the formation of identity through effort and achievement. The boy is learning not just wood carving, but patience, persistence, and satisfaction of creating with his own hands. This points to a crucial truth about reclaiming our identity. It often requires choosing the harder path, like Jesus retreating from the crowds to pray, like prophets speaking uncomfortable truths, like artists pursuing their vision despite lack of recognition. We must sometimes choose authenticity over convenience. The path to reclaiming our identity starts with recognition, acknowledging how deeply AI has penetrated our creative and relational processes. Like the prodigal son coming to his senses in a far country, we must first realize that what we've surrendered before we can begin to journey home. Let me do it all over. Like the prodigal son coming to his senses in the far country, we must first realize what we've surrendered before we can begin the journey home. This journey involves practical steps, identifying areas where we've become overly dependent on AI assistance, creating spaces for purely human creativity and connection, rebuilding atrophied capabilities through patient practice. But more fundamentally, it involves a shift in values, choosing authentic human experience over artificial perfection, embracing process over instant results, valuing connection over convenience. The woodcarving session between grandfather and grandson illustrates another vital truth. Human identity flourishes in community. We need spaces where human wisdom can be shared, where imperfect efforts can be encouraged, where growth happens through relationship rather than algorithm. These might be artistic communities that forbid AI assistance, writing groups committed to finding authentic voice, or spiritual gatherings that prioritize genuine human connection. Consider how Jesus built his ministry, not through mass communication, but through individual relationships. He chose to work with and through human limitations rather than bypass them. He taught through stories that required interpretation rather than providing algorithmic certainty. He allowed his disciples to struggle with understanding rather than providing instant clarity. I think you're starting to get the point. This suggests that reclaiming our identity isn't just about personal choices, but also about creating and maintaining spaces where human authenticity can flourish. Like the early Christian communities that preserved their distinct identity within a dominant culture, we need to cultivate environments that value human uniqueness over artificial perfection. The wood continues to curl away beneath Daniel's knife. Some cuts go too deep, others not deep enough. But gradually, a form emerges, imperfect but alive with the marks of human effort and learning. Joseph guides with a patience born of years of similar struggles, knowing that the real shape being formed isn't in the wood, but it is in his grandson's character and capability. This is what we risk losing to AI efficiency, not just the ability to create imperfectly, but the transformation that comes through creative struggle. Not just unique expression, but the formation of unique identity. Not just human connection, but the divine image that shines most clearly through our limitations and our relationships. Reclaiming our identity requires courage, the courage to create imperfectly in a world obsessed with artificial perfection. It requires wisdom discerning when to use AI as a tool and when to rely on human capability. Most importantly, it requires faith, trusting that our divine design, with all its apparent limitations, serves purposes beyond our understanding. As the afternoon light fades, Daniel holds up his finished carving. It's clearly the work of a beginner, rough in places, uneven in others. But his face glows with pride of genuine achievement, and something deeper has been carved alongside the wood, a sense of capability, of connection, of identity itself. This is the promise of reclaiming our identity. Not that we become more perfect, but that we become more authentically human. Not that we eliminate struggle, but that we find meaning through struggle. Not that we transcend our limitations, but that we discover how they serve divine purpose. For in the end, our identity isn't something to be optimized, but something to be discovered and lived. Like the grain in the wood that guides the careful carver, our divine design contains patterns that lead to true fulfillment, if we have the patience to discern them and the courage to follow them. My musings. The biblical concept of dominion has never been about exploitation, but about responsible stewardship. When God granted humans dominion over creation, he established a pattern. Authority exercised not for self-aggrandizement, but for flourishing of the whole. Our technological dominion must follow this same pattern, asserting control not out of fear or pride, but out of commitment to divine purpose. When I deliberately limit my AI use, I'm not rejecting helpful tools. I wouldn't do that. I'm fulfilling my responsibility to maintain proper order in my creative and intellectual life. This isn't about proving human superiority over machines. Like, that's a foregone conclusion as far as I'm concerned. It's about preserving divine design and how we create, communicate, and connect. Throughout Scripture, we see God establishing boundaries not to restrict flourishing, but to enable it. The garden had boundaries. The Sabbath created boundaries. The holy commandments established boundaries. These weren't arbitrary limitations, but loving protections of what matters most. Similarly, our technological boundaries aren't about limitation for its own sake, but protection of what makes us fully human. As image bearers of God, we're called to exercise dominion in a way that reflects divine character, with wisdom, with purpose, with care for proper order and relationship. This means neither fearing technology nor surrendering to it, neither rejecting progress nor being ruled by it. It means maintaining the crucial distinction between tools that serve human flourishing and systems that diminish human uniqueness. Tomorrow, I want you to approach your technological choices, not just practically, but theologically. I know. As expressions of your divine calling to exercise dominion in a way that honors proper order. Your choice to use technology wisely rather than being used by it isn't just personal preference, it's spiritual responsibility. Your dominion over AI systems honors the God who granted you the authority, not for self-interest, but for the flourishing of all creation. This may sound idealistic to some, but it is quite fine for me. Let me stop that recording. Stop that. Put this other screen here so I can see you better. Yeah, there you have it, folks. I think that actually illustrated the point. I do not need to belabor it. Listen, in a couple of days, I'm about to drop this. Look out on my socials for it. And I think this is going to change a lot of people's lives and perspectives for the good, for the good. As I said before, my name is L. David Harris, and I'm a recovering techaholic. But I think we can all get there together if we continue to trust God and use what he gives us according to the principles of Scripture and not allow those things to overwhelm our lives and we become servants to things God gave us dominion over. Make it a great